Breann McGregor. Thank you so much, Gogo, for participating in this project. I'd like to ask you, how has COVID affected you in all aspects of your life? Example, personal life, your work life, and how you are able to connect with colleagues and friends. And I know that you're in acting, and how is life with your acting career changed due to COVID?
Yeah, well, I mean, so we can back up to the first quarter of quarantine, since we're in the second quarter now, which is crazy to even say. But when quarantine starts, I think we went on lockdown, I believe like March 17th or 18th, one of those days. And I was out of the country. So I came back March 15th. I was emceeing a wedding in Bogota, Colombia. And so I flew back that Sunday, March 15th. And then March 16th, Colombia closed their borders to everyone. And then we went on lockdown. I think LA was one of the first places to go on lockdown. So I was coming back, and so after being in Bogota, because COVID hadn't hit hard there when I got there. By the time I left, it was getting out of control. And that was like, we kind of knew, but we didn't really know. That was kind of like the last hurrah before everything was going to change, before, masks were everywhere and, all that stuff. And so I came back, and I was just, now we're going on lockdown. And so I slowly started seeing things canceled, because I also I manage at a catering company. And I also drive for Uber and Grubhub as well. Those are like my support jobs as I'm on this actor journey. And so I saw things begin to like be canceled, events being canceled, and then it's like, jobs being canceled. So it was just this whole thing of like, okay, I was used to having, 4 and 5 different streams of income. And then it's like, okay, and now you have nothing.
Yeah. I mean,
so,
Uber, how far in did they say, hey, no more Uber?
Well, Uber never stopped, but people just stopped taking Uber. So I didn't, so I think around maybe like the first 2 weeks in March, or the first like that week and a half, I was still driving for Uber, but then I stopped. So I didn't do it after then, just because of, health concerns and stuff. And so, but Uber always, but I saw like business go down because, nobody was flying in because they were canceling flights. And so all this stuff was happening all at once. And it really just made you pause. And I'm a hustler. Like I will find a way to win. That's one of my mantras is find a way to win.
I love it.
And I'm so happy that I had signed up for Grubhub. And so I started driving for Grubhub even more. And, and I was seeing how people were like holed up inside of their house and not, seeing other people. So when I would drop off this food, people wanted to have conversations and stuff because they had not interacted with another human if they were living alone. So that was very interesting, navigating that, and then, having to go into wearing PPE and with all the protective equipment and stuff. So it was a learning curve for everybody. I think for me, it definitely, I looked at it. I was like, this is not a vacation. This is a continuation. We've been given the opportunity to take pause and to self-reflect and to do those things that we said that we were going to do that we didn't have time for.
Yes.
And now we have time for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was me being in that space. Like, oh, I got time to read a book. I have time, all those different things that I, didn't have, that I didn't make time for. And so I looked at it as an opportunity because as an actor, there's always something to be working on. And I had right before COVID, I had just signed with a new agency commercially. And it was like right on time because, they're like literally the next week they had shut down the offices and everything. So I got in there right when I was supposed to, and I'm super grateful for them. Coast to Coast, shout out to Coast talent. They're amazing. And so there was stuff I had to do with them. And so there's always something for me to do. And so what happened was I always knew I needed to focus more on doing voiceover work.
Mhm.
And, all of the on-camera stuff was pretty much being canceled, except small, very small shoots that I wasn't a part of. But I had friends that were still doing small stuff, and then they shut down things completely. And then, people started like doing their own thing at their own risk type thing. Um, but yeah, so I leaned into doing voiceover work even more so.
Wow.
And so I was, I have in my closet, I have my little studio set up and had my mic and everything. So I was, knocking out some voiceover auditions and focusing on what I could do. Because I think when you're dealing, what I've learned the first time being the pandemic, what you quickly realize is that you have to focus on what you can control, because so much is out of your control. But it's like, what is in my circle of influence? And it's that I will, put my energy towards, is that I will focus on. So that's what I started doing. And I had always been a phone person. So I always reached out to my friends even before this time. And now all my friends that were, busy before, they had time on their hands. And so I was, just talking to friends on the phone all the time. And I was kind of on this roll. And then, the things started getting, I guess, slowing down for me, because it's like I had so much time that I have ADHD. And so without having something to show up to or something to do, if I don't have that structure in place, I will be like all over the place.
Mhm.
I
Tell me.
like my, yeah. So I was in that space of like, there would be like maybe a couple of days where I would, would just be watching Netflix. I just wouldn't go anywhere. And it never went past like 3 days, because then like the little drive-in was like, oh yeah, gotta go do something.
Mhm.
And I think being able to still work and do Grubhub kind of gave me a little semblance of normalcy, because I wasn't like in full quarantine, because I was still like out and about. So I never was like encapsulated just by myself. I live with my mom. My mom lives with me up in Santa Clarita. And so, she had a whole different experience. She was in quarantine the entire time. The only person she saw was me and the people she talked to on the phone. And then later on, when stores open, she would go to Ross and the grocery store, and she would see those people.
I still
Uh,
haven't done that yet. And
I,
that's,
I,
I'm
yeah,
like terrified of it. I think that it's great that you doing Grubhub and getting yourself out there, um, seeing how it progressed and how things have been evolving has really helped you have a sense of, okay, this is what's going on. These are um, sort of the handbook of how to deal with COVID right now. Whereas when you keep yourself secluded and confined, um, it only makes your mind wander more and more and
right,
more. And when you have too much time like that, it's not good for your health. And
right.
especially if you're not getting out in the sun, exercising or whatnot, it can take a toll on your mental health and your physical health. So I think that that's like amazing that you continue to do the Grubhub and to see um, that you were mindful of everyone that you came across. Really, I wonder, I guess you probably get this as an actor, is that you're always watching people and examining how their feelings.
Oh
And
yeah.
you know so, and to see how people react to certain things or whatnot. And I think that that's great. And so, if while I before you go back, I just wanted to ask, has your mom's been getting out now though, right?
She has gone to the grocery store and has gone to Ross. That's about it. I think, and she, because we recycle bottles, so she's gone and done that. That's about it. I mean, she for the first part, and she goes out on walks and stuff, and she's done
No
that
shit.
much, but she hasn't like been like amongst other people that she knows per se.
So I'm sure it's
Yeah.
it's completely foreign for her to be. I'm sure is there a part of her that she's scared of, like, hey, Gogo, like, what is it like out there?
I think so. I mean, I think definitely she is definitely concerned, and also concerned, for me, when I, of course, because, going out there, there is a level of risk that
Mhm.
you take on. And, because of that fact, me and my mom haven't hugged in like months, just because I am out in the elements, not wanting inadvertently bring something back. So,
Right.
we were all very strict about, like, okay, when you come home, take a shower, doing all those things, put your dirty clothes and things, so that they're separated. And so just trying to take all the precautions that we can. Um, and so, yeah, so that, and then things kind of progressed differently. So, amongst that, then we had, the social injustice that was taking place,
Mhm.
while, amongst, COVID happening. And that was major. That was a lot. A lot of people just becoming aware of a group of people that are dealing with this thing. And so now everyone's kind of focused on it. So I had many conversations with a lot of my, non-Black friends that wanted to just have a conversation and know about my experience. So that was that emotional part for me having to reflect on certain things and instances, and to go there. So that was heavy for, that after the George Floyd happened, that the couple weeks after that were pretty heavy. And then, of course, all the protests that happened and are still happening. And so that was like, a whole nother thing to deal with amongst dealing with, a pandemic.
Did you
Um,
find talking about the protests? Did you find that was helpful for you to educate others uh, about your experience? And
it was helpful for them. For me, I don't know if it was because I've lived it. So to then go back into, because whenever you tell a story, you relive those same feelings that you had in those situations.
those
Um,
emotions, they come right back up to the surface.
Absolutely. So I think for me it was helpful, a little bit, because I think I was kind of desensitized and numb to it, because Black males have been dying for a very long time. And so it's not like I was aware of it at that moment when George Floyd died. No, it's been happening, long before. So because it's been happening so much, I kind of, in order for me to exist in society, I had to, I would not even really like delve into it when I would hear these stories, because it was so many stories happening almost every day. And then that's the ones we just hear about. And then there's the ones that we don't hear about. So that was a lot to, and then, and it made me look at it in the face, and it made me have my own, come to grips with what's happening. So in that way, it helped me to have that emotional release, because I think I needed it.
Right,
So
to be there and allow yourself to feel that, like, instead of blocking it out and just keep going and not like, okay, I know it's there, but I need to keep myself focused by actually saying, okay, these feelings are coming up. I'm getting these emotions. Let me sit with it. Let me go through these emotions so that I can um, move on. Not, I know you can't completely move on, but at least you're validating the feelings that are there instead of just ignoring it and putting it on the back
exactly.
burner because, hey, look, I got to keep myself busy. If I don't, this has been going on, whatever. But because of COVID, which I think it's great that in the sense that COVID has given people the ability to stop and think about what's going on. And I think that this is a time for people to educate themselves, people like myself, who I'm not African American. I haven't had the struggles such as yourself and your friends and your family and my friends that are African American. And so I know that COVID has made people basically it's like going to the therapist and the therapist says go home, and when you feel this way you need to face it. Most
Yeah.
people don't want to feel it, they try to avoid that, and that ends up building up over time. And there's resentment and anger, and eventually you become numb to it. But
Yeah.
COVID has just thrown it at you, and it's like you're going to deal with it,
Right.
and it's now your approach on how you're going to deal with it. So I'm glad that there is a light shown, like shining on it, because it needs to be talked about. It needs to be addressed, because this has been going on for way too long, way before COVID. And like you
Right.
said before, it's the only ones that we know are the ones that have been out there. This is going on all the time, and there's so many that aren't talked about. So I
Right.
think that is COVID has really put a lot of things to light, and I'm proud of you for facing your emotions and going through it, even though it is extremely uncomfortable, on
Yeah.
top of COVID, which is already in and of itself uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and that's something that I believe you'll be able to utilize in your acting, and be able to relate that to a character or something. But it's I hope that you'll eventually find some sort of peace with that, and
Yeah.
facing that fear. I think that was a really huge step for you to do that,
Yeah.
and I'm really proud of you. There's emotions that I need to face, and I'm like, oh, I have all the time. I'm facing everything, but for you to do that's inspiring for me. So I'm proud of you for that. That's
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
And I can't imagine what it is like for African Americans, and for anyone that is not what society deems, you know, um, whatever it is that however they want to define us or whatnot. And
Right. Right.
so I don't know, that really, it touched me to hear you say that it was really hard with you. But what I love is the fact that you said that you are sitting with your emotions, and you have had to, like, you've had to face it.
Right.
That's hard, because before COVID, we're all in a hamster wheel, just going through the light, like
Right.
the motions of life. Okay, we'll do that later. And we're just
Absolutely.
going through the motions, not enjoying anything. We're not present. And this has really allowed us to be present, and I believe truly authentic,
Yeah.
and like get
Absolutely.
this real raw feelings, which I think is true. Like, it's important, and then it is uncomfortable, but when it's comfortable, that's when there's no growth. So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
good to,
That's it. Yeah.
I tell my husband all the time, hey, look, get used to being uncomfortable. Like, uncomfortable is something that you need to get used to.
Right.
Used to being uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. If you're
Exactly.
comfortable, you're not going to grow. So, baby steps, but eventually, it won't go away. But you'll be able to look at it in a different perspective. And then you
Absolutely.
won't have that weight that is carrying, like, holding you back, because it will hold you back inevitably. But when you face it, even if it's just, it doesn't, it's in whatever way it feels comfortable for yourself. That's a big step. And you're going to see, I'm sure you feel you've had a lot of growth from that alone, on top of everything else. I'm sure you're, really transforming into a better version of who you've always wanted to be. I know that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think one of the things that COVID brings, and you said it, is perspective. And I realized that my life before, like, I definitely enjoyed my life before, and I've always worked on being a present person. But I realized, because especially living in LA, there's always something to do. There's always an event to go to. Your friends playing over here. Your friends doing economy over here, and all these different things to go to. And I realized I kind of like overscheduled myself.
Mm.
And one of my pet peeves was coming home and then having to immediately shower and get right back in the car to go to whatever the next thing is. And so with COVID, it allowed me to take a moment to say, you know what, this is the schedule that I have allowed in my life. So now I'm going to change the schedule. And so what I decided for myself is that when I come home, I have to be home for at least 4 hours before I, am getting ready to go somewhere else. So I need to schedule it accordingly so that I
Great
can,
advice. I will definitely
live my life.
incorporate that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a game changer because I had a friend, because now that I'm you know I'm back in society and a little bit more. Our friends that reach out, hey, you want to go for a walk or come do this? And I'm like, actually, I'm not leaving the house today, so I'm gonna be at home today.
For you. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
of course.
awesome. Wow. Yeah, and another thing that, like, while we're on that subject of, as far as our friends, or even if it's people that are associates where you like chill with them or whatnot, I have realized that I am not going to put up with negativity or anyone that sucks the life out of me. And so my advice to myself, or well, it's just been my husband and my mom, is I'm raising my rent up here. The rent.
Mm,
So if it ain't helping me up here, then I can't afford to lose myself. I'm working so hard on myself that I am not going to allow someone to just use up any space in here anymore. So
right,
raise that rent up, push out
right.
the
Yeah,
the things that do not serve you, and
yeah,
are only blocking you. Get rid of it. And this is
absolutely.
the time to, like you said, self-reflect. That's when you're able to see, like, okay, what do I need to do? What do I want to work on in myself? And you, also, within self-reflection, I'm sure you've probably found out some things, or maybe learned some things about yourself that you didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that
Definitely
when you
not.
hit the nail on the head, is like knowing we all have a certain amount of emotional capacity,
Mhm.
and everyone in our life, we takes up a piece of that. And when you're at capacity, you have no more to give, but people still want to pull and pull and pull. And so you have to know where your capacity is, and be able to say no, like, hey, I need this for myself.
Right.
And I think that's been a big turnaround, because I have a lot of people that I'm friends with, and that I give my time to, and then it's about like knowing how much time I really should be giving to this situation. Sometimes you're giving 4 hours to a person that needs to have 10 minutes of your time. And then like knowing the difference and being able to dial it back or dial it up, and then knowing who you're pouring into and who's pouring into you.
Mhm.
Because we all have, because this life was meant to be lived with in community. Because there are going to be times where you're going to need your friends, and they're going to need you, and so it's that ebb and flow, because it's life. But knowing who is who, I think has allowed. I think having this time of self-reflection has allowed that to happen, and I've
Oh,
had to put some boundaries in place with certain friends and say, hey, I'm not I can't show up for you, at all hours of the night. Like I'm not available for that right now.
and